For me, minor seventh arpeggios are some of the most useful and adaptable arpeggios that you can learn. And so what I thought I'd do this week is talk about why I think that's the case, talk about the theory behind how I use them, because I use them over major chords as well as minor chords as well. And then I thought I'd show you some of my favourite fingerings for them. They're a little bit unusual. There's plenty of different ways of playing minor seventh arpeggios, but these are some that I actually quite like using as well. And then there's a little study as well that I've created which sort of lets you explore them yourself, so you can play around with that. And I've attached a PDF to the description field as well, so you can download that. It has the fingerings drawn out on them, and it has the study written out in tabs as well, so you can give that a go. Let's talk about using them then. If we start with the minor chord, obviously over a minor chord, over an A minor seventh chord, you can play an A minor seventh arpeggio. So you can hopefully hear how that plays. You can hear how that fits over that A minor chord. So that's a given. What about the major chord then? So if I'm playing a C major chord, how could I use a minor arpeggio over this? Well, it's useful to look at the minor seventh arpeggio, look at the notes inside a minor seventh arpeggio. So if we start with the A minor seventh arpeggio, we've got A, the root, then C, then E, and then we've got the seventh on top, which is G. Yeah. And those four notes make the A minor seventh arpeggio. So if we ignore the A for the moment and we just look at the C, E, and G, we'll find we've got the three notes that make a C major triad. So an A minor seventh arpeggio contains all of the notes of a C major in it. So you can actually get away with using a A minor seventh arpeggio over a C major. And what about the A? Well, the A is just a sixth, so you can actually think of A minor seventh as C6. That kind of sound, yeah? So if I play, there's my A minor seventh arpeggio. Hear how that's fitting over a C major chord? Yeah. So that's just using it over a C major. What about if we start to add some sevenths to the C major sound? So if we add the major seventh, so there's my C major seventh, or I could play C major 9 or something. So that kind of major seventh sound. How could I use that? Well, again, it's worth looking at the notes in the chords. So if we start with the C major seventh, we've got a C, an E, a G, and a B on top. And if you're playing the ninth, you've got the D as well. Yeah? And that's what makes that sound. Now, if we ignore the lower note, if we ignore the C, and look at the other notes, the notes above it, we've got E, G, B, which are all of the notes of an E minor chord. And if we add the ninth of the C major seventh, it becomes the seventh of an E minor chord, yeah? So if we're playing a C major seventh, you find you can use an E minor arpeggio, yeah? Hear how that's fitting over the top of it? So that's the major seventh sound, and you can create that with the minor seventh arpeggio, which is really good. What about a C seventh sound, a dominant seventh? Would that be flatting? Well, in this case, you can't really get away with playing an E minor over the top, because an E minor has a B natural, not a B flat in it. So what can you do here? Well, what I like to do is cheat a little bit and modify the arpeggio. So I start with the A minor seventh arpeggio. So there's my A minor 7th arpeggio. And if you have a look at that, you'll see the difference between a C 7th and an A minor 7th is that the A needs to be sharpened. So you're playing an A sharp or a B flat in this case to play the C major 7th. So if you take every A and you move it up a semitone, you end up with a C 7th. And so that's how I use these shapes to play over 7th arpeggios. A bit of a cheat, I know, but it works for me. Okay, so that's the theory behind what I do. Let's try putting some of this into practice. Okay, so all of these shapes follow the same basic rules when I created them. So they all have 2 notes on the E string, 1 on the B, 2 on the G, 1 on the D, 2 on the A, yeah? And that's the first shape that you'll see in the etude. Yeah? And this is an A minor arpeggio, A minor 7th. And you can see, hopefully you can see the A minor chord that sits on top of it just there. So I use this all the time actually, this shape. And then I move on to the next shape, which is just another inversion of the minor 7th arpeggio. And in this case I'm playing C minor. But in my head I'm looking for this kind of a D minor bar chord. And then I fit the arpeggio on top of it, like that. So the first 2 are the ones that I use all of the time. And then in my little study I move on to the 3rd, which is this one, which is actually an E flat minor arpeggio. And what I've got in my head actually is the pentatonic scale. You know, the first position, pentatonic scale. I know wherever I can see that, I can use this arpeggio, yeah. So that's the 3rd one. And then the final one is this one, which is F sharp minor. And in this one I'm looking for that F sharp minor chord, that bar E minor chord, which is up on the 14th fret, and I know wherever I see that I can sit behind that shape and play this arpeggio. And then from here you can actually cycle back around to the first one. Which makes quite a pleasing set of chord changes. So that's it. Hopefully that was useful for you. The theory section applies to any fingering of arpeggio, so you don't have to use my particular arpeggio fingerings or the one that's demonstrated here, because I know some of them are a little bit awkward and difficult to play, but certainly the first 2 are really quite useful, so it's definitely worth getting your hands around those. But anyway, hopefully that was useful for you, and we'll chat next time. Goodbye.